Driver Down the Road, written by Marvelous Marvin Mahaney. Amazon Video Direct. Ain't nothing like a filmmaker scorned, and a whole lot of them. And boy, you burned a lot of them, you voodoo woman. That's the Amazon Blues. And as always, Marvelous Marvin Mahaney Presents has got a whole slate of shows. It's actually the Marvelous Marvin Presents has got a whole slate of shows coming up this month. He's bringing the blues to the South Side, and he's brought the blues to the South Side. So there's been some incredible national acts going through there. So you need to check it out. For more info, hit Marvin up on IG or Facebook, Marvelous Marvin Mahaney. Just remember AAA on. Hello and welcome to the Weekly Read. I am Sean Reed. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe at the bottom of the screen, and comment right now. There are new videos on the craft, business, and art of indie movie making right here on the Jay Horton YouTube channel. I call him Jason. What's up, Jason?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Fine.
Excellent. You know, as soon as you dropped on, we got more viewers. I don't know what's happening. It must be the
Yeah.
Jay Horton YouTube channel.
That's my hair.
It's your hair. It's the hair.
People tune in for this.
Yes, they do. You wrapped up a crowdfunder this last month here. How did it turn out?
Yeah, we sure did. Just last was it Monday? Monday was our last day for Craving. We raised $52,000 during the campaign, and it's now on demand or in demand on Indiegogo. Like if you make your goal, they basically allow the campaign to stay live after the campaign has ended, so people can still get perks and stuff like that. So it's still kind of going on. I'm just not really promoting it heavy anymore. I feel like campaign was the campaign, and maybe I'll throw a couple of posts here and there about it. But we raised an additional $1,000 like a day after the campaign finished. Like I think we ended at 52,000, and we're at 53 now.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like it's great, and we're really looking forward to more updates from the behind the scenes of production, which we'll talk more about as we get going. We probably, I guess, we maybe even should do some kind of pre-production show for Craving on here. Might be a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And on the World One side, we just had our first premiere today, dropping Friday Foster, starring Pam Grier and Yaphet Kotto. This is the last, I would say, probably black exploitation film that Pam Grier did, and it is based on a comic book. So we were just talking about that, and we'll have a great new movie every week on this great channel. So, and of course you can on this great channel, whatever channel that is, and of course you can get almost all of the Zapruder flicks library on World One TV. And by the way, for those of you watching live, feel free to ask a question on or off topic. This is Amazon Video Direct Then and Now. Prime Video Direct managed to create a series of title and then unceremoniously slammed it shut with "Don't let it hit you where the good Lord split you." March 4th, 2018, Lauren DeLisa Coleman, former contributor to Forbes interviews Eric Orme, GM at Prime Video Direct. The story is called Amazon's Prime Video Direct GM on the astonishing future of film distribution. Lauren asks, in your opinion, is distribution easier or more difficult for filmmakers today than it was, say, 10 years ago? Eric Orme, with the democratization of services like Prime Video Direct, we believe we have made distribution easier than it's ever been before. Our service enables content partners from independent filmmakers to studios to remain in control of how they use their rights, have transparency with data, and access a highly engaged global audience of Prime members. Jason, my first thought is that nobody made him use the word democratization. And when I was reading that, I was thinking, whoa, dude, you just shot yourself in the foot. There's no reason you need to even go in that direction. It's not that big a thing. What is that reading back when you think about that? What makes you think of when you hear that statement from them?
The democratization of distribution.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's, whether it was intentional or not, I think that's basically what it was. So I maybe there were ulterior motives,
Mm-hmm.
and there very well could have been and probably are, but I do think that it did fulfill that promise, at least for a time, and has created new things from it, which have led to democratization.
Yeah, I mean, and real democratization, because you can't really a singular port that's only giving you to one place to another. You can't really put yourself in that zone. Although, as a marketplace, when you look at them in general, if they had done to, like, say, I don't know, people who sell, I don't know, Chinese dealers who sell fake US products, they would have had more outrage than probably. I mean, I saw further down the line, I went and I found like an old, I don't know, some kind of like petition to get signed to kind of help change things over, and you needed 5,000, and they couldn't get 5,000 filmmakers to sign it. So, you're looking at such a small group that maybe even some levels of people don't necessarily really care about our pains on that level. Do we have any interesting comments over there that we should throw in? No, not
No,
yet.
nothing that I haven't handled. Yeah.
Okay. All right. January 28th, 2019, written by Tristan Green. On the next web, Amazon just screwed over the indie filmmakers that made Prime Video great. He says, when I said Space Boobs in Space is the best thing on Prime Video last year, I wasn't playing coy or trying to be funny. The film on its own merit, it's a loud and proud statement of body positive feminism. And the fact that it's available on one of the world's largest streaming entertainment networks gave me hope for the future of very low budget independent cinema. This was a very cool feature of Prime Video Direct where you could find everything. I mean, Jason, did you spend time getting lost looking at a lot of things that you may not have been able to see in other places, or was it, really still just a workplace for you ultimately?
I would say it was primarily a workplace, although I do watch stuff on Prime, and
Mhm.
and in the course of promoting my work or checking out or reviewing work I've done, often similar titles will pop up, and I'll check out those. And of course, I'm always supporting other filmmakers stuff, so I'm checking that out. But it wasn't my primary destination for watching stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily my primary. I mean, I think I probably find myself on it more now that we don't have stuff on it, that
Yeah.
Redemption's not even on it. I mean, I guess you could still buy the DVD on Amazon the other side, so our DVDs are still available up there somewhere. I think you can get a Death Day DVD too.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
Death Day is still on there, or it's on IMDb TV now.
yeah, I moved over
Yeah.
to IMDb TV, so it's still in an associated way, but it's that's a little bit different than what we're talking about here, and so it's a very interesting space to be in. Tristan goes on to say that hope is gone. A mysterious purge affecting thousands of films and dozens, if not hundreds, of filmmakers. Jason, how many films did you lose during this first purge, or did you lose any films during that purge?
So I got pretty lucky. In the initial one, I lost one movie, and then eventually lost another. So two of the narrative films I had on there were gone, and I don't think they've been replaced. Rise of the Undead and Monsters in the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much everything else stayed. I had 1 out of 40 of the documentaries actually was purged after it was put up, but just one. So although I know a lot of people that did have stuff purged, I was fairly lucky in that manner. Where it affected me was later down the road when they stopped taking docs, which I guess we'll get to later.
Oh yeah, and do you think then maybe from your perspective, you probably weren't as you were just like, oh, they're just doing a quality purge, like
My initial reaction was, it was a quality purge. As time went on, my opinion on it's changed a little bit. Like I don't think it was quality was directly a thing. I think it was more, I've said this a bunch in other videos, but I think it's more a matter of inappropriate content. Whether that is poor quality or just the type of stuff that just shouldn't have been there in the first place, like the YouTube vloggy videos and stuff like that was getting up there, or like short films. It just the Amazon just wasn't set up to support. Amazon Prime was not set up to support that kind of content, and it just it would so much of it, and I think eventually it led to purging.
Yeah, I mean, how many filmmakers do you think lost films during that first purge?
Oh man, it's got to be in the thousands. or, you know, hundreds or thousands. I mean, just in my little orbit, you know, I have a like a 2,000 or 3,000 member, you know, Facebook group that talks about distribution and marketing. And at that time, it was actually Filmmakers on Amazon Prime was the name.
Oh yeah, I remember
and
that.
yeah, and there was, I mean, just countless. You know, if somebody would make a post about it, hey, my movie just got purged, you'd get like 20, 30 other people right below them, like, oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, me too. So it affected a lot of people. You know, it's hard to say how many, but you know, it like I said, it's got to be, you know, in the hundreds or thousands.
The article continues, it's not about whether the now deplatform movies deserve to be there or not, but about yanking the rug out from under your service's most vulnerable users. Especially since the March 2018, you're using the word like democratization, and now you're conducting a midnight purge. You know, it's kind of like Art Modell sneaking out of Cleveland in the middle of the night. At least you leave us with a technology or a name or something. I would say this would be a reason to be a little upset. You know, Jason, what was your reaction to that if you really start to think about it from that perspective, when you look at it more, not just you, but you look at the entire community and that type of move?
Yeah. So yeah, I was upset at the time, and still am to a point. I'm not so upset that they did it, as opposed to how they went about it, and the information that they gave us as to why they were doing it. You know, like as I work, you know, we'll get into that, I'm sure too, but it was basically like a black box. There was never a concrete metric for why things are being removed. We're just like, yeah, sorry, it's not there. Didn't meet content quality expectations, or, you know, your CER wasn't high enough, or whatever. You know, at least in the early days of the purge, they would give you no information whatsoever. Now,
Well, we got to get to the CE. We haven't even gotten to the
oh
CER yet.
yeah.
You're jumping ahead. They haven't even done that yet.
Right.
So you know, they've just done a midnight purge where they really haven't. They've made by then. This is let's see. Let's check a date here. This was January 28th, 2019. So there's been a price cut at this point, hasn't there? A small one.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that the first price cut was like in 2018, something like that.
Yeah, that was the first one, but it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't the biggest ripple, and you weren't even as in solidly yet. You were just getting in. So
yeah.
So
the first couple of price cuts I hardly noticed, because, you know, it was like, you know, it'd go from 20 cents an hour to 15, or from 15 to 13, or, you know, it was negligible. You know, it was after which we'll get to, the CER thing is where you really started noticing it.
Yeah. And of course, for those of you guys watching, feel free to ask any questions on and off topics. I know I'm great. You just want to listen to me.
Also, speaking of questions, you might want to keep an eye on them, because I think they've frozen on my side. Like, I'm not seeing them.
Okay, so let's see. I've got like a lot of.
If you got my answer to one of them, that's the last time I responded.
Okay, I think it's Michael Films was the last thing up there. Yeah, so that's what I see. So
okay. I think we're good. I'm just letting you know.
All right, just I lost that. Okay, so it's impossible to know why Amazon suddenly conducted, and this is quoting the article. It's impossible to know why Amazon suddenly conducted a purge of independent films. Some filmmakers believe it's because a certain threshold had been met. Amazon's got enough bigger titles to fill it out of its vital shelves now, so it's kicking micro-budget films to the curb. Or I think it's more of a combination. This is me saying I think it's more of a combination, but starting with the storage and streaming, it costs Amazon money, but it's also an advantage to have the most titles. There is a fight to have the most titles. Jason, what do you think? Was it money? Was it, you know, titles? Was it shelf space? What do you think?
Yeah, like I've said before, my number one thing is I think they opened up the floodgates, and too many things that shouldn't have been there got there. And then I do think the other elements that you're talking about were all components. I think there's no simple one answer, but I do think the biggest one was inappropriate content.
Okay, so let's keep going. I used, just by the way, just for this episode, as I now normally do, I've used several sources, and they are listed in the show notes. I'm just going to give you the titles here. Amazon Prime Video Direct GM on the astonishing future of film distribution. Amazon just screwed over the indie filmmakers that made Prime Video great. Amazon is slashing royalties for video makers uploading to Prime Video. Upload prohibited. Amazon Prime Video Direct locks out docs and shorts. And then we go on here. Others believe that the recent, and this is quoting from the article again, others believe that the recent incident involving the film One Cut of the Dead being illegally streamed on Prime Video caused the company to conduct the purge in a knee-jerk reaction to anything its quality assurance personnel might have deemed bootleg. Jason, did you know anything about this bootlegging story at the time?
So sorry. What was
No
that?
worries. Did you know anything about the bootlegging story at the time?
Yeah. The one cut thing. I remember it was all over the place. And yeah, I'm surprised that we didn't hear more public incidences of stuff like that because, I've said from the beginning that I thought there should have been more safeguards, a little more curation in how Amazon was taking stuff. Because I mean, basically with absolutely no chain of title, no proof that the movie is yours, no nothing. You can basically just upload, the movie, the trailer, the closed captioning, and the description, and boom, they just publish it, just like it was a YouTube video, and there's no way to verify that it's the filmmaker's film. So there has to be a lot of incidences of that. There has to be. I mean, that's the only public one that I've heard of, but there's got to be, I don't know.
What about just incidents of people, these scraps between producers and things, like somebody uploading it and they don't have all the permission, and then somebody's contacting them, and then they got to deal with all that
or some kind of fractured distribution thing where a filmmaker may think they have the rights, for what US streaming, and maybe they don't, stuff like that.
Yeah,
that stuff had to happen. I mean, I had an argument with a distributor over putting a movie up. My license with them had expired like 3 years prior. And, now eventually they let it go and like, oh, yeah, you're right. But initially they sent a very nasty email. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and of course, they'll do it. I mean, it gets a reaction. So now here we are, March 14th, 2019. Amazon is slashing royalties for video makers uploading to Prime Video. Written by Sahil Patel of DEATHDAY, a great site. The program pays out royalties as set rates based on an aggregate hours viewed per title. In the U.S., Amazon paid 6 cents and 15 cents per hour viewed in 2018. Similar sliding scale also exists in other Amazon markets, and the PVD program is offered including the UK, Germany, and Japan, according to the rate card. Jason, at this rate, you were starting to get ahead, and you'd seen, besides the purge, any signs of this first slash.
I mean, as soon as the first purge came, it was kind of in the back of my head that this was the Amazon Prime thing with filmmakers. The days were numbered. I didn't know how long, but I knew that I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I mean, although I was still doing pretty well, and I full steam ahead. I'm gonna keep my movies up there for as long as they are and make money from them as long as I can. But it was around that time when I started like a lot more actively looking for other avenues.
Well, and when did you start your YouTube channel?
It would have been around that time.
Yeah,
I think it was late 2018 or early 2019. I'd have to look, something like that. It's been just under 3 years at this point.
So, because the most, I think I remember the Amazon videos started to be the ones.
Yeah,
even
those
then.
those were the videos that kind of established my YouTube channel. Like I was getting the most views from those. People were associating me with information about Amazon Prime. My Facebook group was called Filmmakers on Amazon Prime.
So that would be a reason.
Yeah. So yeah, I was considered to be like boots on the ground, one of the authorities on the subject. Not so much now, but then I was really keeping on it.
Yeah, but it was certainly, well, because it was much more of a, it was relevant to you in that way, and there wasn't as many available markets. Mr. Patel, not Mrs. Patel, continues, starting in April, Amazon is implementing changes to its U.S. rate card that will drop prices to between 4 cents and 10 cents per hour streamed. According to an email sent to Prime Video Direct account holders obtained by DEATHDAY, in effect, This means that Amazon will be dropping its rates by 33% on both ends of the rate card. Jason, what was your response what was the response from the community with this big cut? And what do you remember just kind of like when you looked at this card, you got this email?
I mean, there was a lot of outrage, I mean, when it started moving to the sliding scale, based on the CER, it was like everybody was confused. Like, what am I making? What is this based on? And to this day, there's no good concrete metric for how Amazon ranked the movies. People could say this or that, or popularity, or retention, or quality of the artwork, or stars or no stars. There was so much conjecture, and there was never any solid info back from Amazon about how they were making these determinations. So it was just a lot of confusion and frustration amongst filmmakers.
Yes. So I see that Joe Torrey says hi. Hello.
Hey, Joe. I can see him now.
Okay, then
okay,
Alex, go ahead, read that.
The Alex Graff says the marketability of a micro budget film streaming on such a recognizable platform is, to me, one of the greatest benefits of Amazon Prime. And this goes on. With its waning availability to indie filmmakers, what platform do you envision filling the void? Amazon may leave open, probably Tubi. So yeah, first off, I absolutely 100% agree. That is the advantage of being on Amazon. Your little micro budget movie on a new release wall next to the major new releases. And, especially in those early days, I mean, I had titles that were streaming 2 and 3 million minutes a month, or a week, sorry. And you could almost, if your budget was low enough, like make a go just on Amazon without being anywhere else. And it was pretty great, and then, now, what's happening now is, I mean, Tubi is probably the closest thing to it. I don't think we'll ever get another like Filmmakers and Amazon situation again. The thing to keep in mind about Amazon and what separates it from Tubi, first off, it's a marketplace. It's a giant marketplace, not just movies, but all the other stuff they sell. And secondly, Amazon Prime is it's SVOD, it's subscription based. And Tubi is AVOD, advertising based. So that's a major difference. And I just don't think, I think Tubi will continue to grow and it'll get big, but I don't think it'll ever quite take at least for right now, it doesn't have the same kind of platform recognizability that Amazon does with regular folk.
Yeah, it's not the number. It's not a top 5 or top 3 streaming network at this point. I mean, I think that you have to maybe it's a top 2, maybe it's Amazon and Netflix or the 2 premier outlets, because you look at the size of their libraries. I don't think anybody can compete with them as subscription services, and then everything else is kind of next tier in them with that. Because when you get the subscription, you're not, you don't have to deal with commercials. You don't have to deal with the different stuff. And there's some aspect of curation that's expected, more curation than there would be, I think, with the Tubi, where it's like they can just put whatever you want and you can decide whether you want it. And the advertisers can decide what they want.
Totally.
What does Ghost have to say here?
Well, I'll just tag one last thing onto that. I think that the future of streaming distribution, both, for majors and indies, is going to be, it's going to fracture, and there's going to be a lot more like mini channels or channels that are dedicated to one specific like niche or genre. Or, if you have something like Tubi, you're going to start seeing like more differentiation. It'd be like Tubi indie, or Tubi whatever studio, or however they brand it. But that I think that's where that's moving. And then,
well, I think we're already there on some level. If you look at the niche places that you can go, that that people just have what would be small to these big guys, like 10,000, 100,000, 150,000 subscribers, like Social or something like the cannabis site, or or just Hoopla, which is just the library,
right.
Where it's like people are viewing and they're effectively viewing there, and they pay like 80 cents a view.
Totally. And one other distinction, between what Amazon was doing and say Tubi TV is Tubi TV is still curated, and Tubi TV is not taking unsolicited submissions. Like, you know, a filmmaker can't just go and upload a movie to Tubi TV. You have to go, at least for right now, for the most part, through a distributor or an aggregator or a sales agent. You know, there are some individual producers that have, you know, big libraries or existing relationships that might have deals directly with them, but for the most part, we just can't get those deals.
Essentially, it's going to cost you. You can't get where you could go direct to Amazon yourself and upload it and monitor yourself and get the money direct. Where now dealing with Tubi, you have to go through somebody, even if it's Film Hub. You know,
Right.
you're paying 20%.
Yep. Yeah.
So and then if you're in any place else, you're probably paying a little bit more.
Totally.
Or you're paying 20% and you're waiting 6 months to get paid.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that are going along with that process that, you know, make it more, you know, definitely that's what's helped what I think sets Film Hub ahead, and that's what Amazon was doing. Amazon was paying monthly, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you first put it up, there was a
Mhm.
90-day delay before you got your first payment, and then it was like every 30 days after that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And speaking of Film Hub, I do think that's another really good after effect of Amazon. And it may not be direct, but nobody will ever convince me that Film Hub didn't get the foothold that they did because of Amazon. You know, like because like there was a platform that they could submit to, a platform that was already doing it. A precedent had been set. You know, and I think without Amazon, I don't think we would have Film Hub.
Well, I imagine the sheer amount of volume that they can represent that was all that fracturing that now that they just get from one place and they have a negotiated rate and they don't have to deal with CR, you know, they're negotiating in a different way.
Right.
It's easier for them. Then now they've got huge buckets where if they go in and they want 200 films, micro budget indie films for Black subject or whatever the matter is, they'll just come find those and they know what their rate is.
Right.
And they're not, you know, and they're not having to deal with the possibilities of, you know, somebody uploading something they know. And if they don't, they just take it down.
Right.
So that's that part of the process. Go ahead.
Joe Torre had made a comment about 5 minutes ago, and I got to. He said, "I may be wrong, but I think it's now 1 cent across the board for included with Prime."
Yes, pretty much, right?
To be 100% honest, I have not really kept up with it because I don't upload movies directly there anymore. But the last I heard is that the CER sliding scale is still in effect, but it's very high. Like the 1 cent an hour like goes all the way up to say a 70% CER. And then because I was talking to a distributor about 6 months ago about this, and they said they were telling me basically what the scale was, and I'm trying to remember it. I think it was 1 cent an hour from like 60 or 70% all the way down to 0. And then it was like 2 cents an hour between, you know, that 60 or 70 all the way to like 85. And then it got to like 3 cents up to like 95. And then I don't know where it was from there, but that's what I heard, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. And so continuing on, as part of the changes, Amazon is also introducing, and here we are, CER. This is the introduction
and you may very well be right, Joe. This is I talked to these guys 6 months ago, and that's what they were saying then. And like I said, I don't really keep up on it anymore. It's kind of moot. So it's a subject I really don't care much about.
And how it determines payments in the U.S. So going back to the article, as part of the changes, Amazon is also introducing a new sliding scale on how it determines paying it's in the U.S. Instead of a flat fee based on aggregate hours viewed. So this was a major change. This was basically saying it's not really 33%. It could be more than that. It could be 50%. It could be a lot more in your drop of pay when you do this, because introducing this new metric called the customer engagement ranking. So, Jason, what exactly is, or in your interpretation, the customer engagement ranking?
I mean, customer engagement ranking was basically it's a scale. It's a metric of deciding what they're going to pay you. And they on their FAQs they say it was based on 3 or 4 factors, which honestly I don't remember anymore. But they were all very vague. It was like title popularity, like key art. I don't even remember what they all were. I've done videos about it, like CER explained, but honestly, they never explained it. Nothing more than vague explanations. So as far as I'm concerned, it was all like, smoke and mirrors to assign, a monetary value that they wanted to pick for the movies.
It's called corporate mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
Mr. Patel goes on to say, on the website, Amazon describes CER as, and here we go, a percentile ranking of its title's level of engagement with our Prime customers and relative in relation other included with Prime SVOD titles published via Prime Video Direct within a single territory.
Right. So if there if there were 100,000 titles and your title was in the top, 63% of the titles, you would have a 63% CER. And then how they arrived at that number, you tell me.
CER is calculated as a season level of for episodic content and is calculated on an individual title for standalone titles. I mean, it's like literally when you're trying to when you're just starting to read Shakespeare and you're like, what the hell? And you need to read it out loud, because if not, it doesn't make sense. This doesn't make any sense read out loud. I'm glad you explained it first. Sounds like something in the legal department wrote. I almost feel like it's designed to confuse, Jason. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was designed not to give an answer without giving an answer. And if you ever question them or, would ask support, well, what does this mean? They would send you back an even vaguer response.
They would literally just write back what they sent you.
Yeah, exactly. They would just copy and paste the thing again and say that this is it, and then send you a link to their help, and it would give you the same information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For those of you watching live, of course, as always, feel free to ask any questions on or off topic. As we continue in the article, with Amazon providing little information into exactly how it calculates that customer engagement score, the ranking becomes a black box that limits video makers' ability to project revenue to get revenue from Prime Video Direct. According to Aaron Lindsau, a filmmaker with a documentary on Amazon Prime, Jason, black box or perhaps a Pandora's box, but one way or another, it ain't good.
Yeah, it was total black box. I mean, it was one of the most frustrating. And for a time, I actually kind of liked all the discourse around CER because, I mean, honestly, I built my channel around it. It was something to do videos about. But looking back on it now and all the discourse and, people arguing so passionately about, I think it was this or I think it was that. And really all of these arguments are meaningless and moot because at the end of the day, they're doing what they were going to do, and it really didn't matter.
At this point, they obviously had a strategy, how this was going to, and how they were going to play it out. And they had to have had an end game on that play out at this point.
Yeah. I think by that point, the decision had been made. I think the plug was on its way to being pulled.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're not hearing democratization anymore, or that the revolution is changing. You're just hearing,
how do we get rid of these motherfuckers?
How do we get out of this thing? I can't believe it. So, and of course, that leads us to one of the videos that would have been on Amazon Prime back in the day, but wasn't. That would be Bully Busters, an important subject. So let's take a look at that Bully Busters, a Pooter Flicks trailer directed by Jeremy Normey, produced by Jeremy Horney.
Hormy.
Jeremy Hormel.
He likes that.
Jay Horton.
The definition of bullying is aggression.
High school, my freshman year, is when I was faced with bullying.
I tried to always be strong, so it's like, I don't want to go tell somebody this is happening. Like, I can just handle it.
That just really impacted my self-esteem. I was always scared of social situations or putting myself out there.
But it's intent to do harm. They want you to get upset.
And I never did anything about it. I just allowed it to happen.
Kids try to get help by reporting it, but the more they report it, the worse that it gets.
This isn't the first time we've gotten triggered or bullied, and it's certainly not going to be the last time.
Excellent documentary. Follows down a certain path if you really follow all the Zapruder Flicks video documentaries. There was a point to going to that point. But how did you get drawn into that specific subject?
Honestly, that one, we had done another documentary called Why We Fight, which was about different female fighters in different disciplines.
Mhm.
And one of them, Keita Maggette, she's also known as Keita Rush in a pro wrestling thing. And she created a company called Bully Busters that basically teaches self-defense to women and children. And she has an incredible like backstory about how she was bullied in high school, like really horribly, and hospitalized, and it affected her all through her adult life, and how she overcame it, and and does something to help others. And so that's where it came from. So it was like she was our chief interview for that, and then we found 4 or 5 others, and put that one together. And it goes with kind of our model of doing regardless of the subject matter, we try to take positive and informative approaches to the subject matter without being woo-woo and exploitive.
Absolutely. So you can find that on Tubi,
Mhm.
YouTube. You can find it on World One TV very soon. We haven't uploaded it quite yet. It'll be a debut over there, but you can
Nice.
certainly find it on a few places. So it'll actually will be on a subscription-based service. It just won't be
everywhere but Amazon.
everywhere but Amazon. So as we go back and we go into this story to finish it up here, here we go. Segment 2, February 16th, 2021, 2021, not 2020. Yes, 2021. 2021. Upload prohibited. Amazon Prime Video Direct locks out docs and shorts by Anthony Kaufman, a filmmaker. Last week, Amazon's PVD self-publishing program issued a change in policy. At this time, we're no longer accepting unsolicited licensing submissions via Prime Video Direct for non-action and short-form content. We'll notify you if these categories become available for consideration. Jason, I'm assuming you read that day, that moment.
Yep.
Take you back to some good stuff.
Yeah, that was awful. I mean, especially for me, because the last narrative feature I directed was in 2017. I think it came out in 18. And I at that time in my life, I was done making narrative features. I was like, you know what, I'm going to do docs, and I was doing really well. And Amazon was accounting for, I mean, I think at the time I was saying 60 or 70%, but when I actually looked back over the numbers and actually did my forensic accounting, I mean, it was closer to 85% of my overall income. Like Tubi hadn't really started happening yet, at least for me, and it hurt, man. I mean, my, the predominance of my library was documentaries. And now it's important to keep in mind too, that they weren't purging these, they were just not allowing new ones up. So like my library was all there. And for the first, when did this happen again? It was 2020, 21, 20.
Yeah, 21.
21, right? Beginning of 21. And you got to remember, like for most of that year, it hadn't really affected me that strongly yet. Cause like I said, it was new stuff. So like my old stuff was still there. I was still earning money. But then, every 3 months, there's, 3 titles that are not getting up that are new. So it really wasn't until like the beginning of this year, or 2000, I got towards the end of 2021 that I really started feeling it. I was like, geez, my overall income looks really small now compared to where it was a year ago. And that's what it was. It was awful, So yeah, I was heartbroken. I mean, to tell you the truth, I'm not so heartbroken about the short thing. And part of it's because I didn't have many shorts up there. But another thing is I know very few filmmakers. In fact, I don't know any that were making any kind of substantial money off of short films.
Nobody really has.
There. It was just exposure. So as far as I'm concerned, those are just as well off on YouTube. It's the thing that hurts is when they're starting to, basically take away livelihoods. That's where I get upset. You know, if it's like, oh, my thing was there, now it's not there, boo-hoo, you know. But if it was, you were making like a living from it, you know, or a good chunk of your living, or, you know, extra, you know what I mean? That's where it upset me.
Absolutely. What it is there something Joe has there to say? Let's see.
Oh, I think you were saying something about Craving. On a side note, very happy for the successful Craving fundraiser. Jason and the Filmmaker Facebook page was my primary learning resource to the world of distribution. It made the process so much easier. So I'm happy that the community could come together and support Craving. Much respect. Thank you, Joe. And yeah, it was, I think a big part of the success of that crowdfunder was from me putting in the time on the YouTube channel and, you know, showing myself to be a grounded and trusted, you know, resource for some of this information. And I think it came back around.
So back to the article as we come around the bend. According to distributors, Amazon Prime Video Direct Service with access to both TVOD and SVOD streams could account for as much as 40% of film's overall revenue. Another distributor noted that individual nonfiction titles have generated well into the six figures from the service and can be very significant, it said. Obviously very significant. But for many filmmakers, as the article continues on, and companies, Prime Video Direct remained a crucial platform for them to reach audiences. Karen Chin, a producer and head of Degenerate Films, which distributes contemporary independent cinema from mainland China, says the company wouldn't have gotten off the ground without the service, particular for independent Chinese documentaries, which were shut out of local distribution. She notes some of the uncensored documentaries in our categories can only be found on Amazon PVD. Jason, he giveth, he taketh away. Boy, did he taketh away. Did you realize it was such an impact over so many, not just like micro American filmmakers making documentaries and things? This had a global impact and on bigger companies as well, not just independent filmmakers, but independent companies.
And you know what? That is something that I think, especially American filmmakers forget is like we look so much at, you know, ourselves and what we're doing and how it affects us directly. We forget there's a whole world out there, you know, and that there's all different kinds of people this is affecting, not just micro budget filmmakers. And honestly, I fall into this trap too. Like the whole time this was going on, I was really thinking about how it was affecting me and the people I directly knew or had contact with. Like I really didn't put a lot of thought into the, you know, the global effect of it.
Well, it's there, and you know, sometimes it is just about taking a step back and taking a look at things from a different perspective. And as filmmakers, you know, that's something that we should be able to do always, is to be able to take different view and hear a different view. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad we've taken this time to it. So this last article is really kind of more of an aftermath article. It's from August 27, 2021. The Amazon Prime Video purge. Why the massive SVOD library appears to have fewer titles to binge on these days, by Daniel Franklin, Next TV. Amazon wouldn't tell us just how many titles have been purged from its library because Amazon Video Direct purge policy has changed. So already they've got a filter on this. They're not going to tell you how many. They're not going to tell me how many people they're going to affect. But it's obvious, and that there is an audience noticing it, because this is really coming from an audience perspective on the purge a few months, you know, down the road. Most people are probably not even necessarily aware of it on a bigger level, just to people within the industry. And if you're not reading or paying attention, you don't care. So now people are starting to discover that this stuff isn't there as consumers. Do you think that they had any, you know, pushback enough that it was worthwhile they even thought about it, or do you think that they were just on to the next game?
I think they were right on to the next game. And if you ask me from a macro perspective, I don't think anybody did notice. Like I don't think so either. I don't think regular viewers really were complaining. I'm not saying none. There are, because everybody, you know, people are going to jump in the comments. Oh, you know, well, my aunt noticed this, and that. Yes, there are individuals, but as a collective whole, I don't think the public gives two craps about, you know, the indie film purge. I don't.
No, they'd rather see the new Jack Reacher.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're like, oh, Jack Reacher.
Yeah, which honestly is what Amazon was built for. You know, and maybe at some point they wanted to do something different, but now is not then.
Yes. So, you know, it is what it is. So I guess in the end, you know, in the very end of this, you have to ask, would you do it again? I mean, are you going to give the money back? I mean, come on, guys. Let's really think about this practically when you really get down to brass tacks as filmmakers, as business people, because really filmmaking has been always, by the way, always been, as we talk about here, a business. It's been changed and it got declassified from an art so they could treat it more like a business, as we've studied. So, you're looking at something that has always been there. So are we surprised? I mean, so when you look at this in retrospect from this perspective, Jason, what do you think? Do you give it all back? Do you don't want to go through it ever again?
No, and if if Hulu turned around tomorrow and offered a similar service, I'd be the first one on it. And and things are changing with Amazon. So just very recently they opened things back up to where you can submit indie titles again for TVOD, not for Prime, not for the subscription based, but you can get up for rental and purchase. And as far as I know, that's for both narrative features and documentaries. And then a lot of distributors that were having trouble getting movies up on Prime are now getting movies up on Prime again. So I think while you can't do it yourself, go straight to the subscription based anymore, I'm pretty sure that it's not too complicated to get it up through something like a distributor, or I'm told that Film Hub is getting them up on Prime again.
So I mean, the democratization is gone.
Yeah,
because we can't go direct, but we can go back to the old model and we can pay a VIG.
Right. Or you can go direct and have it up for rental, which, and a lot of people, there's a lot of films that are set up to where they do a lot better on TVOD. I mean, not mine. I've always done better subscription or AVOD, but I know a lot of filmmakers that do well on TVOD. So, I think that's cool.
Yeah, no, I definitely think of having it's, they see it may be also banned. They have the bandwidth. Why not do it? It's like, why not take the money? They have the technology. Why not take the money? Right. It's like, why not provide the service? You're providing these services to across all this other marketplaces, to all these other people selling things, but then all of a sudden you can't to us. Well, because probably it's a smaller group and there's a lot of more. It's a little bit more vague. You got to get that Hays Code. They needed a Hays Code. They write up that Hays Code. They would have been fine. Hays Code was like, we don't want this. We don't want that. We don't want this. They couldn't have gone and got a list. You go right out a list anyway.
Yeah. I always said if they just would have been curating more from the beginning, we might not have got into this situation. Now, I don't know. It might have happened anyway, but I would have, at the very least, it would have taken much longer.
Yeah, I can see that. Do we have any more comments that we need to throw up there? No,
not really.
Good. All right, well then let's take this on. Take it on home. That was it for this week. Next Friday we're going to continue, and actually what we're going to do is I'm going to change a little bit. We've been taking a lot of look at like incidents, and large historical things. So one of the things that I've always learned from and taken a lot of time with is really trying to find individual stories and reading those about individuals and especially producers and the Hollywood techniques and what they used and what was special about them as individuals. So we're going to start looking at some of those. I haven't decided who the first one is going to be. It might be Dino De Laurentiis, because he, to me, is considered I think the greatest independent producer ever. And if you look at his body of work, I think that we'll be able to prove that pretty easily. So, we may be looking there, maybe looking at a Cassavetes, maybe looking at a Rodriguez. Rodriguez is also somebody who I would say is probably one of the more successful independent and has maintained his independence working out of Austin, having his own base of Houston, having the fights that he got into with the DGA about whether he could shoot or not. Soderbergh is also another one who goes back and forth. I'd say he's a strong independent filmmaker, maybe not as big a producer, where Rodriguez is more of actually a producer. So there's definitely going to be a lot of people we can look at. Obviously, Tyler Perry would have to be one of the largest independent and successful independent producers in the history of man at this point. We'd have to compare him, but also and doing it with Minority Material. proving that people want black material of at least of a certain time. They want a large black man in a dress, just like they wanted a large white man in a dress back in the day. Now it's equal. We've got to, Black lives do matter, especially if they're in a dress. Anyway, so I'm bringing that on home. Hopefully you guys are going to be interested in that. So we'll continue that look. Let's keep the conversation going. Let me know if you have some topics you would like for us to cover here on the Weekly Read. Jason, what do you got coming up this week on the Jay Horton YouTube channel?
On Tuesday, I got a short one coming up about optimizing your micro budget.
Mhm.
And on Thursday, I have a little behind the scenes thing back from Death Day.
Excellent. So you got some couple of interesting things going here. Jason, how do they get in touch with you? Where do they get that more information besides just right here on the Jay Horton YouTube channel?
You can find me all over social media at DJ Horton.
Excellent. And you can find me on IG. It's Sean at Sean Alden Reed. Facebook, it's Sean A. Reed. Obviously, there's New Cinema Tribe and there's World One TV. That please check that one out. Be here next Friday, It's not March 4th. It's going to be some Friday next down the week there. 2022.
March 11th.
Thank you. March 11th. I couldn't do my fast math. At noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for the Weekly Read. Thanks to Jay Horton for the use of his channel. And of course, thank you for watching. I'm out.